Namaskar, a warm welcome to World News and Indian Perspective on All India Radio. This is Nobonita Adhikari bringing glimpses of the major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring to you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment and more. The headlines. The G20 Energy Transitions Working Group meeting begins in Gandhinagar with a side event themed Green Hydrogen Accelerating Net Zero Pathways. The G20 Employment Working Group meeting starts on Monday in Guwahati, focus on removing skill gaps and sustainable social security. Agartala to host G20 Science Summit on Monday with the theme Clean Energy for Greener Future. UN Secretary General calls for nations to fast forward their net zero plans. Protests erupt in Portugal over rising rent and house prices amid low wages and weaker economic conditions. Finland goes to polls. Prime Minister Sanna Marin's Social Democrats faces challenge from right-wing conservatives. Tornadoes wreak havoc in US, kill 26 people and affect power throughout the country. And in cricket, Rajasthan Royals defeat Sunrisers Hyderabad by 72 runs. The second Energy Transitions Working Group meeting under India's G20 presidency began on Sunday in Gandhinagar, Gujarat. Around 100 delegates representing G20 member countries, special invitee countries and international organizations are participating in the three-day meeting. The delegates will engage in detailed deliberations on the priority areas during the meeting. Minister of State for Ayush and Women and Child Development Dr. Mahendrabhai Mujpara delivered the inaugural address. In his address, Dr. Mujpara stressed on the need to work together to accelerate the transition to clean energy and promoting sustainable growth. The minister emphasized on research and development of new and innovative technology to promote an advanced clean energy and making it cost-effective and affordable, to support each other in this regard.
G20 nations, we represent the largest economy in the world and have significant role in leading the change to greener and cleaner world. We all have set our mutual determined contribution to advanced energy transition, and many of the economies have already taken significant steps to increase the share of clean technologies in their energy mix.
On the occasion, the second Energy Transition Working Group meeting chair and secretary in the Ministry of Power, Alok Kumar, spoke about the need to address the threat of climate change, saying that it is crucial for us to transition in a cleaner and sustainable source of energy. He added that India is leading its ways to achieve energy transition and gearing up to address the challenges related to technological gaps. Mr. Kumar informed that India has come out with a draft framework for Indian carbon market and Ministry of New and Renewable Energy has selected and awarded more than 80 gigawatt solar cell and module manufacturing capacities.
Our Ministry of New and Renewable Energy has selected and awarded more than 18 gigawatt of local solar cell and module manufacturing capacities starting from polysilicon under the ambitious PLI scheme. And thirdly, our Ministry of Mines has come out with a draft of a strategy and roadmap for critical and strategic minerals. For India, the G20 presidency also marks the beginning of Amrit Kal, the 25-year period beginning from the 75th anniversary of our independence on 15th August 2022, leading up to the centenary of its independence, towards a futuristic, prosperous, inclusive and developed society, distinguished by a human-centric approach at its core. At this junction, I will also like to highlight the importance of the LIFE mission, the lifestyle for environment, which aims at promoting and encouraging responsible consumption of energy for saving our planet.
Secretary, Ministry of New and Renewable Energy Bhupendra Bhalla said that green hydrogen has emerged as the promising pathway for meeting the decarbonization goals. He was delivering his address at a side event on Sunday on the theme of Green Hydrogen Accelerating Net Zero Pathways, organized as part of the second Energy Transitions Working Group meeting under India's G20 presidency. The three-day meeting, which began on Sunday, is being held at Gandhinagar in Gujarat. Mr. Bhalla informed that India has announced its ambitious energy emission target, under which there is a target of installing 500 gigawatt of non-fossils electricity capacity by 2030. He added that the country has decided to be energy independent by 2047 and net zero emissions by 2070. The Secretary MNRE mentioned that the government has launched the National Green Hydrogen Mission this year with an aim to position India as a leader in the global clean energy transition. Mr. Bhalla informed that by 2030, the mission targets to achieve at least 5 million metric tons of annual green hydrogen production capacity in the country.
In January this year, Government of India has taken a landmark decision by approving and launching the National Green Hydrogen Mission. This aims to position India as a leader in the global clean energy transition. By 2030, the mission targets to achieve at least 5 million metric tons of annual green hydrogen production capacity in the country. This will come along with the associated renewable energy capacity of about 125 gigawatts. This scale of requirement is expected to bring over $100 billion in total investments and generate employment for over 600,000 in the country.
The second G20 Employment Working Group meeting will begin from Monday in Guwahati. The city has been decked up for the three-day event. The Employment Working Group meeting summit will focus on three key areas of global skill gaps, gig and platform economy, and social protection and sustainable financing of social security. Foreign delegates, members from 19 member countries and guest countries have started arriving in Guwahati. Apart from this, members of some other international organizations will also participate in the meeting. Yoga sessions will also be held for delegates on Monday and Wednesday. The Union Ministry of Labour and Employment is the nodal ministry for the track. The delegates of the G20 Science Summit on Clean Energy for a Greener Future arrived at Tripura, capital Agartala, Sunday afternoon. There are around 85 foreign delegates who will be attending this summit, which will begin on Monday and conclude on the 4th of this month. Local troops welcomed the delegates with cultural performances at various places while they reached Agartala city from the airport. Later, the delegates visited the Albert Ekka War Memorial and paid tribute to the martyrs of the 1971 war to liberate Bangladesh from Pakistan. The delegates will also visit the Kumar Tilla, where they will relish the musical fountain. The delegates will also call on Tripura Chief Minister Dr. Manik Shah. The summit is scheduled at Hapnia International Fairground in Agartala on Monday. A report from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the scientific body that advises the UN on rising temperatures, has brought forward a report that brings to the fore many effects and impacts of climate change and seems to work as a survival guide in the present times. It outlines the significant impacts that climate change is having on the world already and explains that these will get much worse. By 2100, extreme coastal flooding that used to happen once a century is expected to occur at least annually in half of the world's tidal gorge location places where sea level recordings are made. Concentrations of the warming gas CO2 in the atmosphere are at their highest in 2 million years. The world is now warmer than at any time in the past 1,25,000 years and will likely get warmer still over the next decade. The synthesis shows that projected emission of CO2 from existing fossil fuel infrastructure such as oil wells and gas pipelines would bust the remaining carbon budget, the amount of CO2 that can still be emitted for staying under this key temperature threshold. The report is otherwise optimistic that dramatic changes can be achieved rapidly, pointing to the massive falls in the price of energy made from solar and wind. It says that changes driven by consumers in terms of diet, food waste, and switching to low-carbon transport can achieve significant cuts in emissions from many sectors. But the report also acknowledges that, in addition, to getting to net zero emissions as soon as possible, large-scale use of carbon dioxide removal technology will be needed. Clean energy and technology can be exploited to avoid the growing climate disaster, the report says. Responding to the report's call for more urgent action, the UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres is calling for countries to bring forward their plans for net zero by a decade. He says the report on climate change is a survival guide for humanity. In Iran, 2 women have been arrested after being attacked with yogurt seeming for not covering their hair in public. A video footage that captured the incident shows 2 ladies waiting to be served by a member of staff. A man who looks to be passing by then walks in to confront them. He then takes what appears to be a tub of yogurt from a shelf and repeatedly throws it over their heads. The attacker is then pushed out of the shop by the shopkeeper. Arrest warrants were issued and the 3 were subsequently arrested, the judiciary's Mizan news agency reported. It added that necessary notices have been issued to the owner of the shop to ensure compliance with the law. Iran's judiciary said the 2 women have been detained for showing their hair, which is illegal in Iran. The man also has been arrested for disturbing the public order, it added. This is All India Radio giving you the world news. High inflation levels continue to plague Sri Lanka, with the Colombo Consumer Price Index indicating inflation to remain at 50.3% in March 2023. This was seen as a marginal reduction from 50.6% in February. Despite monetary and fiscal policy tightening, the inflation index has risen by 2.94% so far this year. The central bank has set an annual inflation rate target of between 4 to 6% for the end of 2023. In the past month, the Lankan rupee has appreciated as the central bank follows an ad hoc peg recommended by International Monetary Fund known as flexible exchange. In the United States, 3 people were killed and 3 others injured in a shooting inside a bar in Oklahoma City. According to Oklahoma City Police, in Whiskey Barrel Saloon, they found 3 adults dead inside around 10 p.m. local time yesterday. 3 others were transported from the scene to the hospital. 1 is in critical condition and 2 with injuries that weren't considered life-threatening. The Whiskey Barrel Saloon is a bar and grill in southwest Oklahoma. At least 26 people have been killed after a series of tornadoes tore through the town and cities in the United States South and Midwest. Homes were destroyed and thousands were left without power after storms caused devastation across several states. According to agency, more than 60 tornadoes reports have been recorded. States including Arkansas, Tennessee, Illinois, Indiana, Alabama and Mississippi have all had fatalities as a result of the weather. One storm shredded through the Arkansas town of Wayne, a community some 100 miles east of the state capital, Little Rock. The citizens of Finland on Saturday cast ballots in a closely contested parliamentary election. The race is between right-wing conservatives and Prime Minister Sanna Marin's centre-left. Finland may be days from joining NATO, but the war in Ukraine has had no impact on the vote, even though Finland shares the longest border with Russia. The election battleground has instead been over the economy, and the citizens are marking a big choice on their country's future direction. The main challenge to Sanna Marin's Social Democrats comes from the right. After 4 years of opposition, Petteri Orpo's Conservative National Coalition Party has high hopes of forming a coalition, but this could be the populist Finns party's best chance to lead a government yet. The big issue during the campaign has been Finland's public debt and how the country's prized welfare state can be financed in the future. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has expressed deep grief over the demise of Indian cricketer Salim Durrani. In a tweet thread, the Prime Minister said that Salim Durrani was a cricketing legend and an institution in himself. In today's Hotspot section, we bring you a news commentary on India's exports of goods and services on a robust track.
Amid a global economic slowdown and poor import demand, India has managed to reach a significant economic milestone. The country's overall exports, including merchandise goods and services, have crossed $750 billion mark. This achievement comes at a particularly special time as India celebrates the 75 years of independence with the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, or the Festival of Freedom. The Union Commerce and Industry Minister, Mr. Piyush Goyal, recently termed this achievement a remarkable feat at an industry event in the capital, while highlighting India's competitive strengths and comparative advantages in both merchandise goods and services. The Reserve Bank of India, RBI, has also noted in its latest monthly bulletin that India has emerged from the pandemic year stronger than initially anticipated. Despite the global recession, India has gathered momentum since the second quarter of the fiscal year 2022-23, thanks to its ability to engage with the rest of the world through its competitive strengths and comparative advantages. Mr. Goyal further emphasized that each country must identify its niche in global trade and identify the sectors or industries in which it has a competitive edge. He cited the renewable energy sector as an example of where India could become a global leader, promoting the production of goods and services with the latest carbon impact to ensure clean and green growth. Furthermore, apart from the impressive information technology domain, India's services export potential has enormous prospects, particularly in accounting and auditing, medical tourism, hospitality and tourism, as they get opened up in all countries. India's services exports could witness a vibrant 28 to 38% range of growth in the fiscal year 2023-24, as such exports during the past 11 months grew by a little over 30% to fetch $290 billion. India's government is keen on gathering and sustaining the momentum of the country's exports of both goods and services that have been growing up in a wholesome way, and the external position part of India's macro economy is on robust track. Moreover, India has leveraged its current presidency of G20 to step up greater cooperation among the world's advanced and emerging economies to address and redress the growing gap in trade financing. This is an important issue as the regional development body, the Asian Development Bank (ADB), estimates that the trade financing gap has increased from $1.5 trillion in 2018 to $2 trillion today. At the first Trade and Investment Working Group meeting in Mumbai, India argued forcibly for trade finance cooperation among members. New Delhi rightly said that faster digitalization and easier adoption of fintech could help improve access to trade finance. With India's commitment to electronic data interchange (EDI) for paperless trading activities across sectors within and abroad, there is a push for all nations to adopt enabling legislation in the next few years to reach paperless global trading for ease of convenience that confers huge benefits to all stakeholders. India's impressive export performance in both merchandise goods and services, even amidst the current economic challenges, is a testament to the country's resilience and competitive strengths. The country's government is keen on sustaining this positive momentum and further strengthening India's position on the global trade and services fronts. As we celebrate 75 years of India's independence, we can take pride in the country's remarkable economic achievements and look forward to continued growth and development. Nishit Kumar for World News, All India Radio.
In Portugal, thousands of people took to streets of Lisbon and other cities across the country in protest against soaring rents and house prices. The protest was organized by the movement Home to Live and other groups. Rents in Lisbon, a tourist hotspot, have jumped 65% since 2015, and sale prices have skyrocketed 137% in that period. Rents increased 37% last year alone, more than in Barcelona or Paris, according to a real estate data company, Casafri. Portugal's current 8.2% inflation rate has exacerbated the problem. Portugal is one of Western Europe's poorest countries, with government data showing more than 50% of workers earned less than $1,084 per month last year. King of Bhutan, Jigme Khesar Namgyal Wangchuk, will be on a 3-day visit to India from tomorrow. He'll be accompanied by Minister of Foreign Affairs and External Trade, Dr. Thandi Dorji, and senior officials of Bhutan government. The visit is in keeping with the long-standing tradition of regular high-level exchanges between the two countries. During the visit, the King of Bhutan will meet with President Draupadi Murmu and Prime Minister Narendra Modi. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar and senior officials will call on the visiting dignitary. Our correspondent reports that India and Bhutan enjoy unique ties of friendship and cooperation, which are characterized by understanding and mutual trust. The visit would provide an opportunity to both sides to review the entire gamut of bilateral cooperation and to further advance the close bilateral partnership, including economic and development cooperation. The Consulate General of India, in collaboration with the Indian Business Promotion Council, hosted an iftar evening at Taj Business Bay, Dubai, in the spirit of the holy month of Ramadan. The event was attended by prominent figures from the media in Dubai. The event was graced by the presence of guests of honor, including members of the governing board of IBPC, such as Sri Paresh Shadat Puri and Sri Siddharth Balachandran, Chairman IBPC Dubai Sri Suresh Kumar, Council Commercial Sri Kalimuthu and Prasar Bharati Special Correspondent Sri Vinod Kumar. They conveyed their wishes for the auspicious occasion of Ramadan. The Japanese government has allowed residents of 2 more districts near the crippled Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant to return. An evacuation order for 2 districts in Tomioka town was lifted today. About 8.5 square kilometers, or more than 10% of the town, had been designated as a difficult-to-return zone following the 2011 nuclear accident. The 2 districts together account for nearly half of the zone. Evacuated residents may now return to live in the districts, including areas near a 2-kilometer section of the street known for its cherry blossoms. India has registered over 3,800 new cases of COVID-19 in the last 24 hours. The Health Ministry of India stated that a total of 1,784 people have recovered from COVID during the same period. The ministry said there are over 18,000 active COVID cases in the country, and the recovery rate currently stands at 98.77%. Over 2,700 vaccine doses of COVID were administered during the last 24 hours. Over 220 crore 66 lakh vaccine doses were administered across the country so far. In IPL cricket, Rajasthan Royals defeated Sunrisers Hyderabad by 72 runs at Rajiv Gandhi International Stadium, Hyderabad. Chasing the target of 204 runs, Sunrisers Hyderabad posted 131 for 8 in stipulated 20 overs. Earlier put to bat first, Rajasthan scored 203 for 5 in stipulated 20 overs. In the other match of the day at M. Chinnaswamy Stadium in Bengaluru, Mumbai Indians have set a target of 172 runs before Royal Challengers Bangalore. In reply, Bangalore were 148 for no loss in 14.4 overs when reports last came in. Now let us take a look at the major developments around the world as reported in the foreign press. The Guardian writes, Finland begins voting in knife edge election. The New York Times reports on a tightrope how Taiwan's president navigated the US and China. The Globe and Mail reports police identify 2 of the 8 migrants whose bodies were pulled from St. Lawrence River after boat capsized. The Financial Times writes, lithium shortages threaten Europe's electric car transition. The Wall Street Journal reports cancer patients choose lifestyle over more aggressive treatment. The Straits Times reports Malaysian PM Anwar's visit to China, the start of more Chinese investments, says business groups. Now, a quick look at the headlines once again. The G20 Energy Transitions Working Group meeting begins in Gandhinagar with a side event themed Green Hydrogen Accelerating Net Zero Pathways. The G20 Employment Working Group meeting starts on Monday in Guwahati, focus on removing skill gaps and sustainable social security. Agartala to host G20 Science Summit on Monday with the theme Clean Energy for Greener Future. UN Secretary General calls for nations to fast forward their net zero plans. Protest erupts in Portugal over rising rent and house prices amid low wages and weaker economic conditions. Finland goes to polls. Prime Minister Sanna Marin's Social Democrats faces challenge from right-wing conservatives. Tornadoes wreak havoc in US, kill 26 people and affect power throughout the country. And in cricket, Rajasthan Royals defeat Sunrisers Hyderabad by 72 runs. And now, before we end, let us listen to Mahatma Gandhi's favorite bhajan, Vaishnav Jan, by artists from Tunisia.
Vaishnav Jana to tene kaiyaj pir parai jane re. Vaishnav Jana to tene kaiyaj pir parai jane re. Par dukha उपकार करे तुए माने अभिमानी नाने रे. वैष्णव जना तो देने कायज पीर पराई जाने रे. सकल लोक मान सौने वंदे निंदाने करे के निरे. वाचिकाच मन निश्चल रखे धन धन जननी तेनी रे. वैष्णव जना तो तेरी कायज पीर पराई जाने रे. समदृष्टि में कृष्ण कावी परस्त्री जेने माधुरे. जिह्वा सखी असतन पोले पर धन नावे झाले हाथे रे. वैष्णव जना तो तेरी कायज पीर पराई जाने रे. मोह माया व्यापी नहीं जिने त्रिध वैराग्य जिना मान मन रे. राम नाम शु तल लागी सकल तेरा तीना तान मान रे. वैष्णव जना तो तेरी कायज पीर पराई जाने रे. वैष्णव जना तो तेरी कायज पीर पराई जाने रे. वैष्णव जना तो तेरी कायज पीर पराई जाने रे. पार दुख उपकार करे तुए माने अभिमानी नाने रे. वैष्णव जना तो तेरी कायज पीर पराई जाने रे. सकल लोक मान सौने वंदे निंदाने करे के निरे. वाचिकाच मन निश्चल रखे.
And with that, we end this bulletin. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.
Bye.